Alright, here we are, back in the saddle. Feels like a long time since I made a video. And it has been. As if you've been following the channel for a while, you probably remember that I've been quite sick for quite a while. I'm just trying to figure out why this panel is in the way here. Okay, let's move it out of the way. Good. That's ATC, alright. Anyway, it's been a while since I made a video. Just sit up a little closer. So we're going to take the Piper Tomahawk up from near Puerta Vallarta in Mexico. I'm going to fly south along the coast and look over Puerta Vallarta because I'm going to go there for a little holiday this year. See how it works out. Okay, park brake off. Throttle up. And away we go, friends and neighbors. All right. While we're getting into the air and heading down the coast, I want to do a little update on the channel, sort of the state of the channel. I'm feeling better than I have in a couple of years. So I'm going to start doing more videos, I hope. And I have a little cautionary tale for you. If you're middle-aged or a little bit older, you're probably running into some health issues too, just as I did. And I think there's some things you need to be aware of if you want to avoid falling through the cracks in your healthcare system. And in my experiences in Canada, with my illness, which is primarily heart failure and heart bypass surgery, excuse me, I fell through the cracks 3 times. And each time it delayed my treatment or caused me other problems. And each time, well, the system didn't solve it, I had to. What I'm telling you here is that if you want to not get lost in the cracks in your medical system, you have to think of medicine as a 3-legged stool. Your doctors and other medical professionals are one leg, the administration and the system is the other. But if you want to get the best possible treatment and solve your problems, you need to be the 3rd leg of that stool. Here's what happened to me. 2016, I wound up being taken by ambulance to the hospital, and it turned out I had rather severe heart failure and all but one of my arteries was blocked. So they decided my cardiologist wanted me to have a bypass. So they sent me for a nuclear medicine test to see if the top half of my heart was still working. So they did that test, which was not my favorite thing, and then lost the report. Supposed to have it in 7 days, didn't get it for a month and a half. With it came a little letter of apology of sorts, never admitting any real fault, but saying the report had been mislaid somehow. Well, it showed up after I asked my cardiologist about it, so I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not. Then the next time I flew through the cracks, my cardiologist wanted me to have bypass surgery, which I thought made eminently good sense since I only had one artery open in my heart. If it blocked, I was pretty much pushing up daisies, if you know what I mean, which I wasn't prepared to do at that age. Still not prepared to do it now, actually. And, well, the cardiologist and the surgeon were putting their heads together. And 6 months later, I still hadn't heard anything. So I called the cardiologist, and it turned out he and the surgeon were arguing about whether or not I was a good candidate for bypass surgery. The cardiologist said I needed it. The surgeon didn't want to do it because he thought I was too high risk. I didn't know that for 6 months. I was left in limbo. Finally, I threatened to go to Alberta, the province next door, and go to a doctor and have the procedure done there. And at that point, the cardiologist said that he knew a guy in the capital city was a very good surgeon and would be happy to look at me. So he did, and he wanted me in surgery the next day, but I put him off for 2 weeks because I needed to get my classroom ready for the substitute teacher. And, well, if you're a teacher, you know you don't want to leave a mess and a problem for whoever's taking over for you. So I wanted to organize my class, create a few lessons, make sure the roadmap for the course was clear for whatever teacher filled in for me. 2 weeks later, I went to Regina and had the surgery there, and they were magnificent. There's no real villains in this story. I mean, I did fall through the cracks, but the care I got was generally pretty good. I think even the surgeon here that didn't want to do the surgery could justify it on the means because I was heavy and I think I'd survived the surgery. So I can't really blame him, but of course I disagreed with him. And the surgeon in the capital city felt that I needed the surgery or I was going to die for sure. So I was glad to meet him. We had the surgery. The recovery was very long, difficult, possibly because I was and remained a little bit overweight, quite a bit overweight at that time. But eventually I started feeling pretty good again. And then they started treating me for pre-diabetes. I wanted to go on Ozempic because it's the best diabetes drug out there. You can check into it. It's highly recommended. You can take it for diabetes, but it also prevents heart problems, crises like heart attacks. It seems to mitigate against strokes. It even helps with sleep apnea. And so that's what I wanted to be on. But the cost of it was $1,500 a month. I couldn't afford it, so they put me on metformin instead. And a lot of people have had good luck with metformin. I felt sick on it right from the first day. I told the doctor that, but he said I would have to stay on it because we couldn't get Ozempic. He sent me to an endocrinologist for my diabetes to see what other treatments were available. Again, even he couldn't persuade the Saskatchewan insurance to cover Ozempic for me, so he did the next best thing in his books to control my blood sugar. He doubled my metformin dose. And things went downhill from there. For a year and a half, I got sicker and sicker. If you listen to the channel and watch the videos, you know I was coughing all the time, and I was out of breath and sick. I was nauseous. I had skin rashes. My extremities were starting to go numb. I had no appetite. I had stomach pain. And every chest infection that came along got me. I had pneumonia twice, maybe 3 times over the course of that year and a half. And every time I went to the doctor, I was afraid it was my heart. But the doctor said, no, my heart was doing fine. It had to be pneumonia. And then eventually it got to the point where I felt like I was breathing around a brick in my chest all the time, trying to get air around this brick and up my esophagus. Finally, after more tests, they sent me for 2 CT scans. They sent me for a lung biopsy. This was the respirologist, and I don't blame him a bit. If somebody sends you to a respirologist and you've got breathing problems, he's going to do lung tests. He's not going to realize what the problem really is because it wouldn't occur to him. The problem really was metformin, which you've probably figured out by now. About a month ago, well, maybe 3 weeks ago, I went to my doctor, who has since retired, darn it, he was the best GP I've ever had, and said I wanted to get off metformin because I thought it was part of the problem. So I decreased my dose by half, and then the next day I stopped it completely, and within 24 hours, I felt 20 years younger. So the moral of this story is, be your own best advocate. If you're feeling sick and the tests don't seem to be revealing anything, do a med review with your pharmacist or your GP. But I would suggest talking to the pharmacist. And I would suggest really seriously looking into the side effects. Because the doctors kept saying, well, look, the side effects that you're describing are very, very rare. We're sure you'll get used to it. Well, I didn't. It got worse and worse. But again, there are no bad guys in this story. The doctors here are brilliant. The system does the very best it can for you. Sometimes wait times are a little bit long, but my gosh, the healthcare I've been provided with has been pretty much top drawer. And I did fall through the cracks 3 times. And this is why I say on my little state of the channel video, I'm feeling great now. But this is a cautionary tale for all of you. If you're not feeling well, despite the meds you're on, maybe part of it is the meds. Okay? Talk to your GP. I'm not qualified to give you medical advice. I'm not going to. I'm not going to say get off this med or get off that med. I've got no idea. All I know is that you have to become as much of an expert on your own illness or condition as you can. And then talk to your GP, your family doctor, and talk to your pharmacist. Do a med review. Take the side effects seriously. Because I honestly feel that if I'd stayed on metformin, I would have eventually died. I felt that sick. I was actually working on a new will, and when I thought I didn't have much time left, I went out and bought a new sports car. I thought, well, if I only got a year, I'm going to get that Austin Healey I always wanted, so I did. Put a video up about that car at a car show, by the way. And then I gave my MGB to my nephew. I was going to leave it to him in my will anyway. This way I get to see him and his family enjoy it, which is wonderful. But be your own best advocate. If I hadn't, I really think within the next year, I would have died. The side effects were getting worse and worse. I couldn't sleep. I was having trouble eating. I was seriously depressed. And a lot of these symptoms track straight back to metformin. Now, to be clear, metformin is a very good drug and very effective for a lot of people. It didn't work well for me, but that's not to say it won't work well for you. That's between you, your doctor, and your pharmacist. So please, take my little story as a cautionary tale. Look after yourselves. Do your med reviews. Make sure you become your own best advocate. That doesn't mean you have to be a jerk to the system or to the doctors. Just make sure that you inform yourself about your condition. Then ask questions. Because here in Canada, doctors have very little time. The system forces you through, and they have little 15-minute blocks of time. So don't wait till the end of that 15 minutes to tell them you've got a problem you want to talk to them about. And do ask the right questions of your pharmacist and your doctor. And if you do that, I think you have a much better chance of success and good health. Now, let's just fly this tomahawk around a bit. I kind of lost track of what I was doing. I was flying along the coast. And if the coast is on my left, I must have been going south, so Puerta Vallarta's got to be around here somewhere. I'm taking a little trip there in the winter with my sister, who likes to travel because my wife does not like to travel. So we're going to Puerta Vallarta, and I'm going to study some Spanish. Actually, I've been studying Spanish on my own here, but frankly, I'm a slow learner. Not the sharpest tool in the shed at anything, but learning a new language is always a problem. It took me years to learn French. I started learning French when I was 22 or 23, and I think it took years and years for me to become reasonably proficient. In Spanish, I think I've been working on it for about a year and a half with Duolingo and a couple of other programs. Now I take one online lesson with a real human teacher once a week, and that seems to help a lot. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And I'm hoping to make quite a few more videos before or I eventually have to pack it in for whatever reason. Hopefully it won't be bad health. What if I have a map on here? Did I map? Well, I did too. Okay, so where is Puerta Vallarta? Well, I don't know. Yeah, for that. Well, I don't know. It's the first time I've been lost in VR. Well, I'm not lost. I know where I am. I'm south of the airport. But I don't see Puerto Vallarta. I thought it was not very far away from the airport. Well, as long as we're up here, let's try a couple of fun things. Will that close one? Yeah, okay. Just closed an alert box. My friend Steve has been using the latest VR1 headset from Somnium. He's really impressed with it. I couldn't afford to do that, but I've got my name down for the next Crystal. The Crystal Super, which I'm hoping will be out before the end of the year, and I think it's going to be an amazing headset. But from what I understand, the Somnium is really top drawer, so it's nice to see some competition coming. And then, of course, there's the Crystal Light for people who want 90% of the experience of the Crystal. Visual experience almost as good as the Somnium VR1 for substantially less money. So I think for the next year or so, that could be a really good go-to headset, especially if you're coming off the G2, which was a great headset in its day, but it's kind of aged its way out of the system. Let's just see if I can do a stall here and maybe a spin. This aircraft was supposed to be easy to spin and hard to recover. Let's find out. We'll do power off stall. Pull the nose up, keep it straight with rudder. Nope, doesn't want to spin very much. Okay, power back up. Huh. Well, I thought it would spin. Let's try power on stall. If power on doesn't make it spin, nothing will. All we got out of that one was an incipient spin. Power's full, holding nose up, holding the stick back. Oh, there we go, okay. But it sure came out of it easy, that's nice. Try one more. I should have taken the power off when I was nose down, but that's bad flying on my part. Alright, let's just keep holding the stick full back to try and make it spin. It doesn't really want to. Alright, let's put in some rudder and screw things up here. Okay, so now we got it spinning. Let's take the power off. Oh, well, that was kind of a piece of cake. Power off, opposite sticks, center stick, opposite rudder, and it came right up. Cool. I don't know whether that's realistic or not. It felt okay, but I don't know. I heard lots of horror stories about the Tomahawk, but I hear people who really like it too, and it was a pretty amazing idea. Unlike Cessna's latest trainer, what was it called? The Sky something? All these companies make a serious error when they're making training planes. They equip them with all the bells and whistles and then charge you $150,000. This Piper Tomahawk sold for about $19,000 when it was new. And in those days, that'd probably be the equivalent of about $45,000-$50,000 today. I think you should be able to make a basic training plane with your basic instrument culture, with the instrument cluster, with your altimeter, airspeed indicator, RPM gauge, vertical speed indicator, compass, and turn and bank indicator, radios, and basic VR, basic VOR, maybe ADF. They should be able to produce a fairly simple training plane. You don't have to have fancy GPS. Teach people to fly with basic VFR instruments first. Then let them graduate up to an airplane that has like a Garmin super duper GPS thing. It's estimated, is it called the Sky Chaser? And it had two problems. One, it was way too expensive. And two, it was still built around 1950s weight atoms. Originally, trainers were designed to carry an average human being of 180 pounds, two of them, with full fuel. But people have gotten bigger and heavier since then. And the Sky Chaser didn't increase any load at all. It still cost a huge amount of money, and it couldn't carry water. I mean, it was really, really, really useless in terms of useful load. No better than the 150s, I recall, but I could be wrong. I mean, maybe I'll download the Sky Chaser and see how it did, but I know they didn't sell very many of them. They just were not a very good airplane. Okay, where's the airport? Maybe that's it there. Is that it there? Yep, that's it. Okay. Let's shed some altitude. I hope this hasn't been too boring for you, hearing about me. I mean, sometimes I feel like I talk too much about me. But it was a subject that I'm kind of close to. Because it impacted my life so deeply. I lost a year and a half of my life, basically. It was impossible to play golf. I could barely climb the stairs. I got out of breath thinking about going for a walk. I mean, it was awful. I tried to play golf, and I'd sit on the cart. I'd hit a ball, then hit it again, and when I got to the green, I'd have to get my golf partners to pick it up for me, because I literally didn't have the strength to walk to the green and putt and back to the cart. I had to get a flag for my cart that labeled me as handicapped. Holy humiliation. That was a year and a half of suffering because I wasn't smart enough to be my own best advocate, even though I knew I shouldn't. So, learn from my mistakes. In flying, we always say that you have to learn from other people's mistakes because you won't live through making them all yourself. Let's see if we can do a straight-in approach here. Maybe we'll do a little flyover. We still got 2,500 feet of altitude. I want to get down to about 1,500 and have a look at where the windsock is. I think I took off from the other end of the runway. My memory's not what it used to be. I don't think there's much wind anyway, but let's just lose some more altitude. I'll do a little forward slip number here, and we'll do a straight in. I do miss flying in real life, but in retirement it might have been too expensive for me anyway, but gosh, I sure hated to sell my little Luscombe. That was a fun little airplane. I'm going way too fast here. Let's get the nose up. let's trim for about, it's kind of, let's trim for about 80, 75, 80 knots. We'll just keep losing altitude here with a forward slip. I probably flew miles. I bet you Puerta Vallarta's right here. I misread the map. Well, you guys know if you've been around for a while that I am not the sharpest tool in the shed. Let's see if I can do a no flaps landing here. No power, no flaps. Wow, this is twitchy though. Needs a lot of runway. Oh, don't dive at it, Dave. Come on. Think about what you're doing here. Good, 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 good. Boy, I am out of practice, and this is a twitchy little thing. Come on, get over the runway. Pitiful, pitiful, pitiful. Get the nose straight. Boy, am I drifting. Holy. Okay. Terrible, terrible landing. I'm out of practice. And I blame the airplane, as any responsible pilot would. Gotta be the airplane's fault. Can't be mine. No, no, no. I missed the center line by half a mile, and I'm blaming the airplane. Wow. Sad and pathetic, but what the heck, that's the way it goes. Let's just find our way off here. This isn't the most detailed airport in the game, but it's not bad. Okay, here we are. Get off the runway. And we'll just park over here somewhere. So anyhow, this is the Piper Tomahawk. It's kind of a fun little airplane. I like it. But you know, for me, I like flying low and slow, and the Savage Cub is probably still my favorite airplane. If there was a Citabria in here, I would fly that all the time. I would love it if there was a Luscombe I could fly, because then I could kind of do a how does this thing fly compared to real life thing. Although truthfully, I didn't get to have a lot of hours in the Luscombe. I bought it, and then you know I put maybe 20 hours on it, and then I got sick. Well, that's close enough to being parked properly. Okay, throttle back, mix lean. Let's turn all these lights and pumps off. And master off. So that's it. We flew for 25 minutes, and hopefully I didn't bore the absolute heck out of you. At least I hope I didn't. And I promise not to talk much more about my health, because I don't think it's going to affect the channel anymore. I mean, until I get a lot older. I think I've got quite a few good years left now, and I'm just going to enjoy my VR stuff and sharing my hobbies with you. I hope you like it too. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really, really appreciate it.